Labrīt!
Good morning, dear participants of the forum, dear guests, your excellencies. We are starting the meeting of the 20th International Conference of the Baltic Forum. At the beginning of the forum, I would like to ask some words from our partners of the forum, our patrons of the forum, and then I'm going to tell you about some changes in our program, which are going to make this conference even more interesting. I hope that you are going to like this conference. First of all, I would like to give the floor to Andrejs Pildegovičs, State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Your Excellency, Mr. Urbanović, dear deputies of the Parliament, dear ambassadors, Your Excellencies.
I would like, first of all, to welcome all of you to Jurmala, to this very beautiful location in the middle of the so-called Indian summer. And let me say a few words on behalf of the Foreign Ministry to the participants of this forum. Considering the ocean of experience of the present participants, practical, academic, I would like to express profound hope that this frank conversation and this long-lasting network of the friends of the Baltic Forum will facilitate the search of the solutions to the very dramatic and sometimes even depressing challenges that we are facing today. Indeed, since winter of 2014, we are facing new reality which characterized by mutual mistrust, mutual recriminations, misinterpretation of intentions, disagreements on the core principles regarding the rule of law, international relations. We are observing the growing and deepening divergence of path and conflicting narratives. And today, indeed, it is difficult even to comprehend how our aspirations, how our discourses have changed during the less than 2 years. We are facing this new reality which might haunt us for a long period of time. Nobody knows exactly, would it be another lost year of peace? Would it be a lost decade, generation, or even longer time span? However, it is quite obvious that we have to search mutual solutions. We have to meet. We have to have frank exchanges. We have to talk to each other, looking into one's eyes as much as we have been doing this during the Baltic Forum of the last 18 years. As much we have discussed in Jurmala difficult issues of the relations between East and West since I recall personally 1986 famous conference between the civil leaders of that time United States and the USSR. Let me just make a few remarks about how much different has been our perception of the reality 2 years ago. For almost a quarter of a century, EU has been building what we have thought would be a mutual, beneficial area of modern strategic partnership between Europe and Russia. We were driven by the very basic idea underlining the EU to create a common area of security, prosperity, cooperation, and common space. Our vision has been anchored to the common network of common institutions, OSCE, WTO, Council of Europe, UN. We welcomed aspirations of Russia to join OECD, and we are welcoming, for instance, aspiration of Kazakhstan to join this organization today. At the EU-Russia summits, we were committing ourselves to pursuing strategic partnership on the basis of common values, which we pledge to respect. We had agreed to reinforce our cooperation with a view to creating so-called common four spaces: economic space, common space of freedom, security, justice, a space to cooperation in the fields of external security, and a space of research and education. Significant progress has been made over the last 20 years in the arms control regimes, demilitarization of the European continent. On the regional level, the Council of the Baltic Sea States has galvanized joint efforts to save the Baltic Sea. And I hope that you will have a chance to witness that indeed we have saved the Baltic Sea together over the last 20 years, and it's not called a Dead Sea anymore. However, of course, still we have some issues to solve together. We implemented the Partnership and Cooperation Agreement signed in 1994 and launched negotiations on new enhanced Partnership and Cooperation Agreement. Russia has become and is still one of the major EU trade partners. We had numerous projects in the framework, including visa liberalization. And despite differences on some issues, we were enjoying quite stable and pragmatic cooperation. Latvia, in its respect, has been trying best to be a constructive player in this regard. We solved many, many issues haunting us since the Soviet period, solved border issues, established regular state-to-state relationships, achieved a lot on economic, transportation, cross-border cultural ties, and occasional high-level visits and meetings demonstrated a growing mutual interest in expanding the field of cooperation. I was present myself in St. Petersburg in April 2013 when our prime ministers met at a meeting of the Baltic Sea State prime ministers, and it was one of the most optimistic gatherings of the regional leaders when we were strategizing how to create common Baltic space even more integrated. I want to recall that 2013 was the year when we had for the first time balanced state-to-state economic trade balance of more than 1.3 billion euros going one way and another way. Of course, these relations have had a lot of difficult testing moments. One of them was Georgian-Russian conflict in 2008. And of course, we all remember energetic efforts on behalf of the world leaders, including President Sarkozy, to lessen the tensions. And we know since then that so-called Sarkozy 6 points have been one of the agreements had to be implemented. And unfortunately, some of the points are still remain on paper. However, the turning point in our relations has been illegal annexation of Crimea and the following events in eastern Ukraine. These developments rocked the whole system of European peace and security that we had been building together, and as a dramatic result, security issues have started prevailing over other essential dimensions of our relationship, such as trade, people-to-people contacts, cultural exchanges, and issues of our common development. To manage the situation, the EU and other like-minded nations have taken a three-track approach towards Russia. First, we had to reassure our allies and friends. Second, we had to put in place restrictions and sanctions aimed to stop the aggression. And third, last but not least, we engaged in dialogue with Russia to de-escalate the tensions. The EU introduced the sanctions to avoid deepening of the crisis, and it was a common decision of all 28 countries. Union unconditionally supported the territorial integrity of Ukraine and will not abandon its principal stance on the illegal annexation of the Crimea. The EU expects Russia to return to policies and actions consistent with international law. As you know well, complete and verified implementation of the Minsk Agreement, including reinstatement by Ukraine of the control of its borders, is a precondition for review of the restrictive measures against Russia. The upcoming municipal elections currently announced by separatist authorities on October 18 and November 1st could seriously derail the Minsk agreements if held outside the realm of the legislation of Ukraine. Mutual trust between the EU and Russia has been additionally seriously damaged by the continuation of the politically motivated convictions against different foreign individuals, such as Estonian security officer Ashton Kohver, Ukrainian pilot Savchenko, and the Crimean media representative Sentsov. This trial brings serious doubts about the impartiality of Russia's law system and create a negative and unfavorable image of Russia in the international community. I would like to use this forum to stress once again that the European Union is not competing with Russia in the neighborhood, in so-called countries of Eastern Partnership or Central Asia. Our approach has been very transparent, very consistent, and very clear. We respect free and sovereign choices of individual states in their ambitions with regard to the cooperation with the European Union. The EU respects the decisions of Armenia and Belarus to become a part of Eurasian Economic Union. We understand that this economic union is under construction. Vladimir Lenin has told us that objective reality should not be ignored, and we stand ready to analyze and research what kind of engagements might be possible between the EU and this emerging organization. Of course, knowing that what are the pillars and the foundations of this institution, and of course in this vein we welcome accession of Kazakhstan to WTO, and we will welcome participation of Belarus in this organization as well. We equally respect the decision of Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine in seeking closer ties with the EU. During our EU presidency and Riga Eastern Partnership Summit, we confirmed the principle of differentiation in relations with the countries of Eastern Partnership in its peaceful, non-confrontational policy. The European Union fully respects Russia's political, economic ties with the countries of Eastern Partnership and doesn't want to impede them. We strongly believe that the states which are currently seeking closer forms of integration with the European Union are not willing to break their traditional economic contacts with Russia. The EU agreed to hold trilateral talks with Russian partners on possible effects of DCFTA with Ukraine, thereby demonstrating the openness of the EU to discuss any issues raised by the Russian partners. I want to remind everyone that the EU has attended more than 14 rounds of trilateral consultations with Minister Ulyukayev, and if the need would be for the 15th and 16th of round, we are open for that. Equally, the European Union wants to deepen ties with the countries of Central Asia at the expense, not at the expense of the third states. We believe that the region of Central Asia, which has a huge development potential, can become a platform for all interested actors to strengthen security, stability in the region. Apart from one of the most fashionable buzzwords in the current discourse is connectivity. We meet regularly on different platforms, Europe, Asia, and of course we are firm belief that when we discuss partnership between Europe and Asia, two biggest trade pillars of the world, it is vitally important to engage countries in between, because without engagement of Russia, without engagement of Kazakhstan and other countries of Eurasia, we will have a very theoretical discussion. And therefore, during our EU presidency, during the first half of this year, our government initiated 2 ministerial conferences on transportation, on science and education in the ASEM format. And we were very pleased to see 2 ministers from the Russian government attending those fora. I stress again that EU has no intention to isolate Russia. The first visit of the Latvian foreign minister during the presidency has been paid to Kiev and Moscow. And during the presidency, together with the former minister Igor Ivanov, we organized an extensive conference in Moscow dealing with the issues of Eastern Partnership, Central Asia, future of relations between the EU and Russia. And we made an effort to dispel those misconceptions and stereotypes which are preventing our confidence and trust between us. And we are very pleased that this Latvian approach now is being followed by the Luxembourgish presidency, and Minister Asselborn followed the steps of our minister. I'm absolutely certain that there are areas where cooperation between Russia and Europe remain important. We have always emphasized that big international issues like the conflict in Syria, relations with Iran, climate change, peace process in the Middle East can benefit from a constructive involvement by Russia. The issue of the foreign fighters could be dealt effectively only by putting efforts by all like-minded countries, and we very much hope that Russia will be a constructive player dealing with this dangerous phenomenon. In our bilateral relations with Russia, Latvia continues the necessary cooperation at diplomatic, expert, sectorial levels, border demarcation, cross-border cooperation, transport, customs, culture, and of course, people-to-people contacts. We have to admit that the future of EU and Russia bilateral relations, to a large extent, depend on the situation in Ukraine and respective steps taken by Russia in seeking the resolution to this conflict. We have to do utmost to restore trust between our states and our communities. There will be no return to business as usual as before we see full respect of the Ukrainian and Georgian territorial integrity. And we think that we have to do utmost in think tank community to seek the ways to restore connectivity, trust, confidence, and mutual interaction. The fundamental approach of the European Union on the creation of the common spaces, we believe, remain relevant. And as soon as we agree on our common approach to the observation of international law, international trade principles, democracy, human rights, we will be able to move forward. As you know, diplomats are called paid optimists, and I remain indeed hopeful that sooner or later we will restore common path, we will restore confidence, we will consider again the other side more as a partner than an adversary. However, it seems that it will take incredible joint efforts for healing the physical and moral traumas of the last year. It will take a lot of precious time. It will have to undertake a lot of considerable efforts and a great deal of bold, forward-looking political leadership on both sides. Thank you.